What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast, and we are back. Not only are we just back, but we are back with a whole new series. This is for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. I guess I want to say it in quick. The Ones Who Live. They have to do something with it. I don't know. I just, it's so long of a title. I feel like they add some oomph to it, make it creepy. Or like, remember Fear when they used to start and have that little riff, dome, 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 or when they would do the shock sound in the early days of Fear, like,
oh
yeah, and then like the flickering screen, awesome. Then they toned down, but anyway, yeah. Hey everybody, so my name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition.com. That's with a K, and I'm joined by editor-in-chief of the Koalition, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, listeners and viewers? What's up, Adam?
And Throwdown Show's Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on, man? Yeah, this is it. We're back. This has been great. Thanks again for all the people that have been following and subscribing over on Spotify and iTunes, and of course on YouTube and with the website. It's great, and it's always great when we could see activity on these older episodes. Not so much just for us and our content, but for the show, just for Walking Dead, the franchise. It shows us an interest. When I look at the analytics and I see that, people are watching back episode from the last season of Walking Dead proper, which makes sense if they want to try to tie this in of what's going on with the ones that live. But going to tell you guys, and it's something that we hated on this show, there's a lot of world beyond talk in the ones that live. So if you are like many, because the show had horrible ratings and it wasn't that good of a show, that passed on watching World Beyond, you might have some bitterness when watching this. Or at this point, we're airing this after the fact. You've seen it already. Then you probably already know. You got a bunch of question marks like, what's this? What's that? CRM this, CRM that. Why are they nuking this? Or why are they getting rid of these communities? Why are they not really the government? What is this? All these questions were answered in World Beyond, but no one watched it. So that I'm sure that's going to be the gripe that a lot of Walking Dead fans are stuck with the mothership and have watched but a lot of people put that off because they're like kids running around lost. I don't want to watch this, but there was a lot to tie in. And especially when they discussed all the different locations, the purpose of the CRM, a lot of backstory which is coming forward now and being discussed, and long dialogue parts that we had in this episode and the ones that live. So if you feel a little bit lost, we're going to fill you in on a lot of the stuff. But if you're still lost and you really want to know what's going on with all of it, you can go through our backlog and take a look. We covered World Beyond. There was 2 seasons of that. We did not like it. Spoiler. But also for your own stuff, if you want to watch the show, go ahead on AMC Plus. They have it all there. So you could go ahead and binge and watch those. What was it? It was 10 episodes, 2 seasons. A lot of filler in between all of this. The main takeaway is all the CRM talk, all the stuff, and they make a lot of references where there could have been points where Rick, I guess, could have interacted with them, and it makes me wonder if the show didn't perform poorly, would have it returned and kept going. That's World Beyond, and then we could have seen them connect with the ones that live with Rick Grimes. What do you think, Rich? Am I off? Or do you think that could have been an idea that they had?
To try to connect both shows?
Yeah.
We probably could have saw that. We'll get into it, but I don't know if I like the way that they connected these stories.
Oh, that was my issue, and that's one of the things. I've watched this 2.5 times, and when the first go around, I was like, this. We always knew it was going to be tricky. All right, we always knew it was going to be tricky to explain what happened with Rick from the bridge. Why did the CRM pick him up? Especially just him, when you consider all the other things that were going around. I mean, hell, think about it. If you really want people that can help your new community, I don't know if Rick would be the one you want. I would take Eugene because he's making bullets. He's smart. He's got some use in the community. You know what I mean? That would be the person I would. But we all know the real reason is that they had removed Rick Grimes because the plan was to do some movies. Right. Personal note. Was it I'm blanking on the name. Abraham.
Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln. My bad. There we go. Andrew Lincoln. He was homesick. He's from England, and he went to be with his family. He's been doing this on the U.S. soil for years. At that point, it was like 10 years or so, and he just needed a break. So they were like, "All right, fine. That's it. We'll write you off. We're not killing you, and we'll do some movies and stuff." But then things changed, and the pandemic happened. A lot of things got put on hold, and what was going to be movies, from what I understand now, has been completely scrapped, and we got this show, the ones that live, and then Michonne also left because she put together a play that was going to be on Broadway. I'm not sure if it did come out on Broadway, but I know she had other
Black
projects.
Panther. She's doing a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, she was doing Black Panther. She had other things. So then it was like, all right, well, she's leaving the show. It was getting weird after a while, and we had discussed that when talking about Walking Dead, when we're talking about how we got RJ and Judith being raised by the community because both their parents are gone. It's like, I mean, even in this episode, they do a little callback, trying to throw in some flashbacks of what happened. They said 5 years earlier, and they show the bridge and all that stuff, but then they show a little bit of Michonne talking to Judith, like, I know Daddy's out there. And she was like, if you do, go get him. And it's like, no kid would say that. My kid does not even want my wife in the other room. Okay. Within like a few minutes, he's like doing a roll call. All right, mommy, where are you? So no, but whatever. I get it. They were trying to do this for the show, and there was nothing else they can do. They were sort of stuck rock in a hard place because you have kids involved, small kids. And even when they did the time jump and all that stuff, it still wasn't that much. They were just taking the baby to the adult. And they tried to explain that here. People don't get too confused when watching, or when you've watched World Beyond. I'm mixing all these up. The ones that live, you're going to hear a lot of numbers regarding years. Rick talks about 6 years that he's been there. They said 6 years as co-signee? What was it that they called it? When you have to work your way to get into this community, consignment. Yeah, to do the 6 years. But then he talks about how he did 1 year of training to become the soldier. But then in another segment, he talks about multiple years. So then I'm still thrown off on all these years of what's happening. But we know that they're trying to sprinkle everything. Pretty much all you need to know is that from the time he was taken from the bridge to the very end of the mothership show, this is what he's been doing. So try not to focus too much on all the years and the times, because if you're taking notes and you're writing it down and trying to do the math, it doesn't really add up with some of the activities. But doesn't matter. That's it. So let's just get into it right off the bat. The way they explain this, and that's how we'll do a little roundtable discussion of like, what does it work for you? I'll start off real quick because I just heard my headset. I think it's dying. It felt weird to just say that they picked them up just to become one of the people that protects the city, the hidden city. Why would you go this far to just pretty much abduct one person and then put them out on the front line to protect the city from walkers being tethered by a group, when you could have just given that to any Joe Schmo, which we find out later from his commanding officer about the A's and the B's. You would think if they picked Rick Grimes, they picked him because he was a leader of a community, he was law enforcement, he had other attributes, other characteristics that could benefit the creation of a new community. And that's not what they used him for. So I know at some point his commanding officer, was it Belford or
Okafor?
Okafor, right, had sort of hinted as like, hey, you could have been in a long time ago, but you're choosing to be out here. And he was like, well, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be part of your damn community. I don't want to be here. It just seems weird for that. You know what I mean? Like, you would just, if you're going to abduct people and force put them in forced labor like this in a harsh condition where it's like, here's a weapon, we're going to tether you, we make sure you go out there, kill these walkers, clean these areas, and we pull you back. You would put people that you don't care about. But it seems like that's not the case with him, as we all know who he is, and it sounds like his commanding officer also knows more about him. But this is how they explain it, and he's been doing that for 6 years. I don't know. So, Rich, what did you think of that explanation of what happened to him?
Well, I have to be honest and say I didn't really like the explanation. I understood they had to try to tie all this stuff together with the CRM and all the time that has passed. I will say one thing. The episode is titled Years, so that's why they went with this particular format, talking about all the years. So I understand that. But it just seems to me like anytime they're telling a story and they are telling you what's happening instead of showing you what's happening, I have an issue with that. Like, for example, when Rick is writing this letter to Michonne, he's explaining this is what happened right after the bridge incident. I would have preferred seeing clips of that instead of him saying this is what happened, as he's writing the letter. It's just like stuff like that. I just feel like it doesn't make me quite as interested. I understood they had a certain point in time they had to get to when they showed the 5-year jump to now, but I think they could have handled that a lot better. And one thing I will say about this before you go to Carlos, Okafor, I will just say this: the actor who they got to play this character, I felt that he was trying to act like Idris Elba / Denzel Washington with the way he was talking. The way he was talking, the dialogue, it just didn't sound like that's his real accent or something like that. That's why I was like, all right. So I did laugh when we saw what happened to that character, but I did want to point that out because I laughed when I saw how he was talking in these interactions with Rick and stuff like that. It's just like it's very, 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 very weird. But let's hear what Carlos thinks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the points. I do have sort of my biggest issue with the whole thing is the thing that Adam mentioned at the beginning is just trying to figure out how the timeline works. It's like 5 years this, 1 year this. It's been how long? 7 years, or so that can be confusing, especially off of a first to watch and not having time to rewatch it or making sense of anything. So yeah, that timeline I feel like could have been a little bit better fleshed out. The Okafor thing, I do like his character, but I do agree with the voice. I'm like, I wonder if that's his real voice, or maybe we're always shown to a lot of British actors in these shows, so it could be just one of it could be a British actor. Andrew Lincoln is a British actor. His accent got actually better. Remember, Andrew Lincoln, Rick, in the beginning, he had that superimposed Southern accent that was really choral and all that stuff. But I feel like
he toned down on that. Yeah, he toned down on that.
Now it sounds a little bit more neutral, but it sounds a little bit more natural for it to come out. So yeah, overall, just initial thoughts from the show. Actually, I kind of enjoyed it. I felt like it was pretty good. I mean,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I just want to know from the way they explained what happened to him. We'll get to everything. But you were cool how they explained it. Of hey, was brought into this group CRM just for forced labor. That's pretty much it. He was just there for labor. That's the issue I had.
He was the vanguard. I think more than anything, it was just the vanguard of the military. The military. There was a town that governed itself, and then there was a military that governed everything outside of it. And Rick was sort of part of the military. He wasn't really quote unquote in the military, but he was like sort of some of the peons of the whole.
Well, not even, because remember later on he talks about when he's sitting down at the bench with Garcia and they're looking out at this walled off, or not walled off, I should just say waterfront, closed off city, this hidden city. That's what they call it, but we pretty much think it's Pittsburgh, right? That's what's going on here.
It's Philadelphia. It's Philadelphia.
They confirmed it. All right, so it's Philadelphia, but they don't mention that in the show.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, they do. They do. So the first time I realized it was Philadelphia was when they mentioned the Lincoln Financial Field. I know that's where the Eagles play.
It was
So
about bombing it. The major when he sat down talking to him about
yes,
it.
so they talked about, oh, we bombed Atlanta, we bombed Los Angeles or somewhere else, and there's like, but when we got to Philadelphia, that's when Okafor said that he decided to go against sort of the orders. But yeah, so it definitely was Philadelphia after they confirmed it on the show. Whether or not the view that we saw when they were sitting on the bench was Philadelphia, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah, not sure either. And then also, if that's the case, if this one guy has so much power to say no, then he's claiming that land because that would
Well,
make him the leader. Because if they were bombing all these other cities and they already had their own locations, their CRM
mhm.
locations, why is this one going to stand? And if it is, who's going to run it?
well, Well, don't forget the Okafor. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Okafor mentioned the reason why how he
Oh
did
yeah,
it. He didn't just say no. He said he had to he had to kill his
oh yeah,
wife.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, no, I get that. I'm just wondering, like, I would think that's if you're not going to bomb a city and you're saying, all right, well, we're going to keep this one around. Well, who's going to run it? Who's going to bring in the units and do all that stuff? It seems like it's a
Yeah,
bigger choice than just what he could make. As it's not like he was the bomb runner because he had talked about the other big cities that he did bomb.
yeah,
But yeah, it was going to be a hard task. But you know what? We'll probably have to look past all of that, and we'll definitely toward the end because what they throw at us pretty much wipes all that out. It's like you don't really care anymore because now it's gone back to full circle to what we wanted. But we're introduced to some other characters, so we should get familiar with. We got Garcia, right? Esteban.
mhm,
That's one of his other buddies that also worked that line of killing, but his goal was completely different. He wanted to be in the city. He's like, I just got to do my time, and once I get my time, they're gonna give me a job working at the waterworks and doing all this stuff. I can't wait to get in there. So he's thrilled, and then he eventually does get that job. So we got that, and then Thorn, right? That's the woman that he meets up with. That she's from South Africa,
South Africa. Yep.
right? She was in the Navy, so that's how she knows how to fight because we see a little bit of that later on. And turns out she's a very good poker player. And how she got picked up is that she was in Vegas for some big tournament, and then that's when the outbreak started. So she didn't even get a chance to play a hand. And then, long story short, she meets up with this captain who picks her up, the same one for the CRM, and ta-da, here she is. So it was like, all right, I'm pretty. We got the major we'll get into later, but I was kind of surprised that there was only those two. I don't know why I figured it would just be like a bigger community of people that he would have introduced or characters that would have introduced this with. Like, hey, we got this guy, this one's from this one, or this girl from here, boom, 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 boom. And he's been there 6 years, but it sounds like he didn't talk to anybody because even when he has that conversation with Garcia, he's like, wow, you actually want to talk to me after all these years that I've been talking to you and you
Mhm.
don't respond. So I'm like, I it's as if when we're being tuned in is when his brain is being activated to like try to do something. Because he said he's tried to escape a few times. They show quick flashbacks, and we saw the flash of him on the beach side, on the beach front that we saw from
The
the mothership
finale.
ending. Yep, the
Yep.
finale where you see him lift up his hands. All right, that was one of the times. The main time, which is what takes place in this one, is when he's tethered. He's running out there to kill some walkers that's getting too close. And this is when he decides to take his axe and chop off his hand, which is where the tether is, so he can escape. But he can't make it. He's bleeding. He tried to stop the bleeding. He still wasn't working. He's collapsed. And then they pull him in. They grab him and they pull him in. So that was a big right there. We were trying to figure out, was this a smart move? Why didn't he just try to cut the cable? I guess it's a steel cable. There's plenty of reasons. But then I remember the main gripe a lot of people had with The Walking Dead, the TV show, as opposed to linking whenever they would try to coincide and link with the comic, is that, well, he still has his hand. Why does he still have his hand? There were so many times they hinted that he was going to cut his hand off. It never happened. And then Aaron lost his hand and had the beard and everything going. He's like, oh, he's Rick. Aaron is playing that character. So I feel like this was more of a callback to and a nod to that community. It's like, all right, look, we did it. We did it. Look, he lost his hand. Ta-da! There you go. And but he still gets one of those electronic military form hands where he can. It sort of looked like he could he move his fingers, or was he just a permanent fist?
I don't know. That's a good question because I thought about that throughout the episode. I'm like, is it just static and stays like that? I think it is.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
there's
Just for punching, because I know that I've seen with amputees and there's technology where I don't know how they do it, but they'll have it where you can see them move appendages and see the fingers moving. But
and the
we've never
blade.
seen it. Yeah, and the
And the
blade.
blade.
He's got the blade, and it's a fist and a blade. Let's just go with that. Sounds like a cool weapon. It's an attachment he could put on. He goes out there. Yeah. So this is Rick. This is Rick Grimes, and the whole time where he's narrating that he's writing all these letters to Michonne. He knows it's not going to get to her. He puts them in these little bottles or whatever, little jars, vials, and he throws them in the ocean. But his boss has been reading them all like a perf and knows all of this. How is he finding them all? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense because they show him just chucking it. It's someone constantly watching him, and then with a scuba set, and just like, oh, he threw it, gotta go. I don't know. That was a little far fetched for me. I was like, but
yeah, I didn't really understand how that happened because I know he mentioned, oh, we saw the first one you threw in the river. I think they caught, but I'm like, how did they catch the other ones? Or how
yeah,
they
that's what I'm saying. That somebody had to have been watching him to catch all of these, and that he kept running and throwing these in. So then it gets into the whole point where, with the years, like you said, Rich, they're trying to explain to the 6 years he was there until he finally agrees, because the captain won't give up on him. They put him back on the line, even with the one hand. Hey, this is what you got to do. This is your job, but you don't have to do it. You could work your way in. I don't want to go in. I want to keep doing this. But it wasn't until Garcia pretty much planted the seed, which seems like a no-brainer. It was like, hey, if this guy, your boss, his whole job goal right now is to recruit you to work for the CRM, why don't you just do it? And then when you're out on one of the runs for supplies or whatever, just take off. That seems like a no-brainer idea, right? But Rick couldn't figure this out.
Yeah, I agree. It is a no-brainer idea. But I guess they really wanted to hit home that Rick felt loss, even when he attempted to escape the first time and cut off his hand. It's just like he didn't really think through any of these things. He's just been desperate to get out of this situation and to get back to his family. So it makes sense that he would be given this idea to finally join the CRM and try to get out. But we'll see what happens, because it feels as though after his conversation with Okafor, now he may try to save the world, so to speak, the way that they discussed. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We need to see how that plays out.
Well, we know it ain't going to play out with Okafor. That's it. Oh, but yeah, I mean, he pretty much, Okafor has an idea of a coup, because that's the thing. If someone's trying to figure this out, the CRM is not the U.S. government. It's not the U.S. military. This is completely separate. This is its own thing. There's probably going to be a few episodes they just go through the whole history of how did it start, right? It's like, I don't want to say it's militant, because it's not. It's very organized. It seems like private contractors, like it was a private contractor group that just started growing. And they said, you know what? Well, we have locations. I think, if I remember, World Beyond talked about like 6 locations. And they kept growing. And then when everything went to poop that we experienced with the fall, that's when they reactivated themselves and said, all right, this is it. We're going to take action. And that's when they started bombing and doing all the stuff that they did. So that's that whole thing. So it sounded like Okafor, the way he was describing it to Thorne and to Rick, because he brought both of them in, and he says he sees them as leaders for his special force command unit that he wants to create. And their whole thing is that he didn't like the A and B structure that the CRM have in place, which is the A's are the ones that are, they're not trouble, but they are free thinkers or people that could influence others. So they either just kick them out, kill them, or they put them on that row there to do stuff. And then the B's, which are the workers, the people that want to just live normal civilian lives. I want to have a family. I want to do this. I want to do that. I can provide services. Okay, then you go inside. But all the people that could disrupt or convince others, hey, I don't like how things are going. Let's unionize. No. You're going to the front line, buddy. You talk too much. So it sounds like the way he was describing, he doesn't want to get, so he was pretty much building a coup attempt, right? He wanted to create a group and he was going to send them out and they were going to then spread the gospel that he was creating. He already had some material for them. And the goal is to pretty much build a big enough force to then fight the CRM and to take over and change the way things are run. That's pretty ballsy to do all this with just two people, with Thorne and Rick. And it was a deep dialogue choice for him to go into all this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was pretty long. I'm like, well, this is a lot. This is a lot. It's almost as if he was just planning it out, but he didn't really have anything set in motion. And all these years, he's waiting on Rick to turn around. Come on, Rick, help me. Turn around. Do this with me. That's why like I said earlier, I wish there was others involved. I wish that he would have said, hey, I already got, I don't know, Velos here and this one and that one. They're all in on it. We're all ready. We just need a few more pieces. And you and Thorne are those missing pieces. Let's do this together. It didn't get brought up. But what did go into motion is that idea for Rick to join. He joins up with the CRM and taking Garcia's idea of just, hey, I'm going to get out of here. So the other main takeaway is, even though Garcia is now now in the city and has that dream job and he has that girlfriend, right? The journalist, which is funny. They have their own TV. They have everything. How is that feed not being picked up elsewhere? Because they kept talking about, oh, we're hidden. We don't tell anybody where we are. Well, you got a TV channel that's broadcasting stuff. Somebody is going to know by just looking at the geography, right? That was so weird. I didn't understand that. It would have made more sense if it was not televised, if it was just a radio transmission. Like, oh, we have a radio station we listen to. That's how we know what's going on. But whatever. Long story short, Garcia, he approaches Garcia and says, hey, there's got to be a way. We're going into this other town. Is there any way in the water system, the sewer system, that I can get out? I know they're all walks. And he's like, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you, but, if I was to tell you, and he sort of backhandedly explains how to get through and gives him the padlock combo, because that's all that's holding it. It's a padlock. You know what? If you really care about security, you put more than a padlock. You weld it shut or do something. I just found that funny too. So before I get any further, I mean, what did all that, while I'm rambling with all of this, what did you think of the commander's idea of starting a coup, and for now Rick saying, hey, I think this is how I'm going to get out. I'm going to go through the sewer. Did all this work out for you? Make sense, huh, Carlos?
I mean, it explained how crazy Okafor was. I mean, we find out later, like, all the stuff that he had to do to, for, Philadelphia to not get bombed. So, like, his ideals are pretty set in stone. So it makes sense to his character. As far as the Rick escaping, I thought he was going to go through with it, and then he was going to, get caught and be like, oh, here we go again. This time it's going to cost you this or whatever. But it didn't happen. That was actually a twist. To the whole ordeal. But yeah, I wasn't expecting this a successful escape, but Rick's already failed 4 times before that, so it would have been par for course for that if it would have kept going.
So Rich, did you think this? Because a part of me, same thing, and I mean, hindsight now, we already know how it happened. But at the time, when we see him going into the sewer, right, and he's about to go in and get in, and then all of a sudden these walkers approach, he kills the walkers, he sees a little girl, makes that choice to go save the little girl. At that point, did you say, all right, this is it. This is how it's going to be going forward. He's going to constantly get close to get out, almost like a Gilligan's Island situation. And then he's going to have to come back. Things didn't work out. It's like, oh, no, you were so close, Rick. I mean, it clearly doesn't happen. But still, at this point, that's what I was feeling when I watched it. I'm like, great. Now he's never going to – it's always going to be something. And what did you get from that, Rich?
That's exactly what I thought. I knew he wasn't going to escape. There was going to be something that happened at that particular time that was going to prevent him from going through with it. I think it makes sense because, again, they want to emphasize the storyline that people are always trying to get out of the CRM and they're never successful. So I didn't really have an issue with that. I did question about the little girl showing up, and then I know they explained that as well, but it's like that was just, it came from out of nowhere. But again, they had to, I guess, distract and make sure he couldn't get out of there because, like you said, it's a little too easy to know exactly where to go. And then the fact that his friend knew the code as well to escape, I said, okay, yeah, he's not going to get out, obviously. So, but it is what it is.
At first, I thought he was just going to set him up. The friend was setting him up. And that he was going to go down there and put in the wrong code, and it was going to set off an alarm. And then he's like, "Hey, Garcia, why'd you do this to me?" And he's like, "Well, I just made it out here, and they knew I was always talking to you, and you always like to escape. So, hey, they introduced you to my girl. Hey, Sheila, come over here. Come over here. Meet this guy who just got me a raise for doing something dumb." But no, yeah, like you said, they sort of give in a whole little backstory with the girl via Thorn, right, who then goes into Rick's room because she it's interesting with that character because when we're introduced to her, she's throwing a bottle at him and saying, he's like, "What's that for?" And it's like, "Oh, well, now I know not to try to escape from the CRM because you try to escape, you chopped your hands, it didn't work, and then they just put you out to work again. So I'm not doing that." But she signs up, and here it is where she sees that he was about to go through the sewer. She saw all of it. She says it, but instead of just saying just go, she says, "No, you got to come back. You got to come back." Why? It's it. Just what you have the little girl who's probably traumatized. She's not going to say anything. No one's really going to question about anything. His dog tag is still out there on the walker because that was the other thing that to cover up. He found a walker, chopped off the hand, put his dog tag, said he was going to light it on fire, and say that they'll think it's him. And that's when he was about to throw for the flame to start, and it didn't happen. But she could have let him go, but no, she keeps making it seem like no, you got to come back. This is where you belong, and that's the whole thing. The ones that survive, when I kept trying to think about the title, it's more of like the feeling that people believe in the CRN, that they are the ones that survive, that this is them, this is the new beginning. They are trying, right?
It's kind of like, there is a revolt within the CRM to change the beliefs and how they operate. The thing is, though, if you've been watching Walking Dead and you see the CRM, obviously you're not going to root for them to be successful in anything they do. So this is why I say, let's see what Rick's plan is, because like you said before, when Okafor recruited him and Thorn, you're wondering why there wasn't anyone else. I think this is where Michonne comes into the play, right? Because she obviously, I guess, will help Rick to deal with this situation. But we have to see how everything progresses in the next several episodes.
Yep. And then, of course, they answer the question, Thorn, when she's having the little heart-to-heart in Rick's room of explaining the sad story with the little girl. She was part of a community and a museum, and the people that you killed were her parents. They had turned, somebody died. So it sounds like somebody had died inside, because she said 1 minute the walkers were there. Well, I mean, somebody died, they turned, started biting all the other ones, and that she hid in one of the spots there, and that they all knew she was there, or a lot of the walkers. And they kept grabbing at her, but all their guts and stuff was getting all over her. And eventually she gave up and said, I'm just going to go out there and die. She went out of her little hiding spot, but they didn't attack her. Well, we all know how that works. It's because of all the guts. Now she doesn't smell fresh anymore. She smells like dead meat. So I was like, okay, you explain that story. I guess, we could have used that. But then it just... That it felt like a little side thing there. I don't, was it needed? Unless that character is going to play a bigger part. If the little girl is going to play a bigger part, or something's going to happen. But
no, I feel like the whole purpose of that is to flesh out Rick and Thorn's. Is it Thorn? I forgot the name.
We're saying Thorn. Hopefully, it's Thorn. If you're watching YouTube in the chat, it is okay.
Yeah, it's Thorn.
I think it is to flesh out their their chemistry and stuff. Whatever is going to happen in the future,
And Carlos, you thought they were going to be a little more chemistry. You were like, oh, this is leading up to something.
Oh yeah, it's been 6 years since Rick's last seen Michonne, so pretty sure he's getting lonely.
Like, you're right. I think she's gone, but you're not. You're
well,
here.
well, let me stop that theory right now for Carlos. Now that Michonne is back in the picture, I think it's too late.
Oh yeah,
Thorne had her opportunity, and it's over now.
Right. Well, but before we leave that area, that CRM location, we are introduced to the Major, and that's the guy from Lost. You found his name, Rich, because I blanked on it, but he was Locke. If you guys, whoever were listening and watching, remember Lost, that actor.
Yeah, it's General Beal.
Yeah,
that's
General Beal. And I instantly was like, this is going to be the new big bad. Because he usually plays a bad guy in other shows. Besides Lost, there's others that he's been in. And so he sits out there because everybody has these conversations on the park bench there. It's great. So whenever I saw that scene from the bench, I thought of those Liberty Mutual commercials. Liberty, and they always show those horrible backdrops of like the Statue of Liberty or something. It's fake; they're not really there, and that's what I kept seeing here. I was like, they're probably just looking at a blue screen and sitting on the bench, But anyway, Rick likes to hang out here and just have his daydreams, and so he's there, and then the general comes over. And we'll get into the Michonne daydreams also. But the Major sits down and says, oh, I know about you and this and this and that. And he gives some more backstory of the bombings and all the locations and Okafor and all that. And then he asks him a weird question, which is, should I trust him? Should I trust Okafor? Well, why are you asking this jabroni who signed up recently? What? That makes no damn sense. It's like, well, is there a yes or no answer even? If he says no, do you trust him? Because he just hired. Maybe he's trying to take his job. Maybe he hates that guy, for putting him out on the front line for 6 years. And it's like, don't trust him. He's a horrible person. He doesn't care about anybody. Get rid of him. No, but that's not what Grimes says. He says it's a good guy. No, it's good. Everything's fine. You don't have to worry. Okay. Again, it's trying to, at least the way I see it, they're trying to imply that a lot of time has passed where Rick is in the military, in the CRM. Because at first he said it was 1 year. He said, you've had 1 year of training. This is Okafor when he's talking to him and Thorne about it. But then later, when Rick does his little narrations, multiple years in the CRM have passed. So I guess he's moved up, but we don't see any ranking system or anything like that. We just have to take in consideration that this force command group that Okafor was creating was created, and that those were the two people part of the group, the special force. But as we'll get into later, there's other people in the helicopter with Rick. So there's others getting involved, but it's a lot. There's a lot. But some of the other tie-ins with World Beyond, before I forget, because it just happened in their Okafor little conversations back and forth, and the Major on that bench talked about that they were going to go to this college for a big meeting with all the other CRM leaders. Now, that was brought up in World Beyond, that big meeting, and that took place, but then there was all this craziness going on in Omaha at the same time, and Omaha gets brought up here as well. All right, so it's an interesting tie-in of how they're trying to explain that, hey, there could have been a chance that Rick showed up at that meeting. I don't think, because when we were watching, we were like, oh, he probably did show up there, and the kids didn't see him. It didn't matter. Or it would have been cool if they would have just had like a tracking shot of showing people walking in the background, and we would have seen Rick with some of the other CRMs just walking into a room. That would have been pretty cool. But I don't think he ever made it. Right? Because now this is where I got a little confused. We know about the Omaha bombing, right? Because that was broadcast over on the CRM TV. And we know that happened, and we saw that through the World Beyond, and it was the CRM that did all that. Even though here they don't know that. They're saying that some other group did the bombing, right? And it's not a spoiler, people. And they're like, oh, you're spoiling. No, because that was mentioned and answered in World Beyond. Because that was a question also. Remember the sisters trying to figure out who did this bombing. And they found out when they talked to the big bad. I'm blanking on the woman's name that was in charge. But she had even said, hey, we did this. This is how we handle things. So no spoiler. That's already out there.
By the way, she will be in this show. We already saw her in the flashes when they showed the recap of what happened leading up to. So she is probably going to be in the next episode. We're talking about Jadis.
Well, Jadis also. Yep, Jadis. Yep.
Yeah.
She's the one that abducted. And she also played a part in the other one, but she changed her name in the other one. Remember? There was a different name. She got rid of Jadis. Which is interesting with that too. But so that gets all fleshed out about explaining some of those situations. So what I was trying to figure out is when they got on the plane in that main toward the end of the scene, the helicopter, I should say, where were they going? Did they ever say? Did I miss that? Where they said they were going? Because I don't think they were going to. Were they going en route to the conference? But Omaha happened. So I don't know.
This was after Omaha, but I want to hear what Carlos had to say. I don't know where they were going specifically, but this was way after Omaha because we saw the broadcast where he was talking about all the stuff that happened, and then Rick was asking, "Do you know who was responsible for this? Who did this?" And they wouldn't tell him who did it.
So. Yeah, your guess is best as mine, but I mean, from what I understood, weren't they going to send Rick to his assignment because he was assigned to take over that school or whatever. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, he was going to that's it. He was going to another location because they were going to create the other groups. Because the campus was a meeting. The one at the college campus was a meeting for all the CRM leaders to get together and to talk about plans and stuff like that. And that was the first episode of World Beyond right there. The Omaha, we blew up when the bombing, and I don't remember what episode. It was definitely going into season 2 that they talked about in World Beyond. But in this one, when it happened on when they were watching it on the television, trying to figure out if that was during the same time he was supposed to go to that big meeting or after. No, it must have been after because everybody was already at the meeting. So yeah, Rick should have been at that meeting. I don't know, people. If you're in the chat, it's a lot of side timelines. If you can figure this out, do you think Rick was at the conference meeting at the college that was in World Beyond, which we know took place because that's where we were introduced to a lot of the higher ups and the big bad that was there for that season, for that series. So I don't know, but we'll flesh out a little bit with Okafor because then he gets into another altercation with Rick Grimes. But Rick put his blade to use. Well, tried to put it to use to end him while he was sleeping. That's when Okafor spills the beans about how evil of a person he was. Bombing Los Angeles and some other big cities, and he was supposed to do Philadelphia, but his wife was trying to stop him. No, she was trying to stop him, right? I think that's what it was, or was she telling him to do it? She was telling him to do it.
And he had to kill her.
And he killed her. That's right. It was the reverse. So she was telling him to do it, and he killed her. So he knows about hard decisions. This is also when he had spilled the beans about reading all those love letters and stuff that he was sending out. So that was a thing. It was all right. I get it. That whole segment, why it had to happen, why he had to spill all this stuff in it. But the letter reading didn't work for me. I figured it would have made more sense if it was, we got all this information from Jada. Jada told us that because she was there. She knew this. She was feeding us all this information about new potentials. Because the other thing that I was thinking about with the whole why pick Rick Grimes to just work the front lines and kill walkers, you could have had any Joe Schmo do this, is that Jada's was working with Okafor, and he was saying, hey, if you find anything of use out there, people wise, let me know and we'll bring them out. And she found Rick and it's like, I got somebody, let me send him.
That right there is a better explanation. I'm pretty sure the writers didn't do that, but that's what they should have did. That's exactly because she knows Rick. So that would have made a hell of a lot more sense for her to be the one that was so high on him being the one that they chose.
Yeah, and would have made sense for him to know all this when Rick was like, "How do you know all my stuff?" I don't know. It's like, "Oh, I know about your daughter. I know everything because of Jadis." But they don't even bring her up. Besides the fact that we saw her in the flashback montage showing all the stuff, they don't even mention her. We don't even see her at this location. So that again is like, well, it says now, right? So we can play on that a little bit. It says now, right at the end, big now. Well, now is what? Now is that now also a world beyond now? Because if that's the case, is that where Jada is? Because remember, she was dealing with all of those issues now, or is this now as at the end of when Mothership ended and Michonne sees a caravan and goes to the caravan? Remember, she's like, "Oh, I found a new group," and goes there, or is this just now within the timeline of Rick and whatever he's dealing with? Or is this now as after what happened at the Commonwealth? Because that's a different now.
Yes, these are all different nows. If I had to make my guess, this is pretty much the continuation of the last time we saw Michonne. So in that next episode, it's probably going to be the backstory as to what happened to Michonne in that time frame. And then the now is now she is now reunited with Rick in the current time, whatever time that is.
And Rick Jr., which he does not know about.
Yes.
Because that's never brought up. He keeps, he misses his daughter and all that stuff, and his wife and his daughter's wife. And I was like, oh, that's right. He does not know because she was pregnant. So he was missing in the whole thing. So he doesn't know. So that's going to be another surprise. And maybe he'll be upset at Michonne. I was like, "Oh, where's Judah? Oh, I left her and our son. What? You left both our kids with Daryl? What is wrong with you? It's like, come on now. It's like Carol's here too. She's crazy. It's like, we're leaving. Abort. Let's go back. And who knows? That might be it. We'll get to the ending of this, but what really happens in this story? It's a good question. So anyway, now we get to right here at the end of it, where he's on the plane, and this is the other thing that sort of threw me off. And now that I think about it, this doesn't mesh. Well, oh no, it does. It makes perfect sense where he was going. So he's in the helicopter. This is Rick with his captain, Ford, right? Ford. I'm blanking on his name again. Okafor. And there's a few others in the back. We don't see their faces, but they're there, and we only know this because of what happens in the next scene. But they made the way they cut it. It made it look like there was a pilot, Okafor, and Rick. Right? Thorne is not on this flight, so the fact that she's not there tells me that they're going through with the plan of what he said, where I'm going to send you to this location assignment, to this community. You're going to go find resources, people, spread the word. We're going to build our section there. You're going to, create a unit. And Rick, I'm going to take you to this other spot. You're going to do the same at that unit. But I guess Okafor decided to take the flight with him. This is me guessing of where they were going. This is when we actually see Rick seems like it's a genuine response of turning around, right? That he says, "Hey, I'm buying into what you're selling. I think you're right. I think we should do this." And I think it also combines, and I'll bring it up now, with all those weird flashbacks that we were seeing. Not even flashbacks, they were just daydreams that Rick was having on that same bench, I would think, because they just changed the foreground there. But he's at the bench, seeing Michonne. It looks like he was working somewhere. She was going to work. He's doing a little flirting. She comes back the next day. He brings her pizza and more flirting. And then it's not until he kisses her, then he realizes, wait a minute, no, none of this is real. None of this is not happening. He doesn't ever mention that in the real world, like while he's awake. He doesn't bring it up or anything. This seems like there's something that we're seeing in his head when he's dreaming. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like we never see him wake up like, no, it's like
we did see him wake up a few times from it, so we know that it's a dream. Especially towards the end.
Yeah, it's definitely a recurring dream. Yeah.
Oh no, it's definitely a recurring dream. But he doesn't talk about it. It's not like something like he shares And then it's like, oh, I have this dream.
He barely said hi to Esteban for after 10
exactly.
years.
Yeah, he barely talked to the dude, right? Until what? To tell him congratulations, you're leaving? I don't know. It was weird. And that never gets addressed again, because the guy said, he's like, what made you start talking to me now? I've been talking at you. You never talked to me. He didn't even answer that one. There you go. Still a one-way conversation. So yeah, he's having all these vision stuff, but it just all plays back of like starting new beginnings. And that was some of the things that Thorne even gave with the dialogue of like, they didn't leave us, we left them. This is it. They're not lost, we are. This is our new beginning. Then this is what we have to do now. So just let that go, just whatever. Because she thinks she had a son, right? She talked about she had somebody also back there. So it's not like she had no one to return to if she was to go back to her life. But she's way off, if she's here in the States from South Africa. That I don't even know how do you find a flight when the world has gone kaput? I don't think you do. You think you're just stuck where you're at, unless you hang out with Daryl and you get on those boats to Paris. So while they're there, and he's giving the whole speech to Okafor about how he's drinking the Kool-Aid now and he's good to go. All of a sudden, boom, 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 shots fired, and he takes one. Okafor is, what was it, to the head, to the throat? What did you guys see it? Because they did a little zoom in shot. Where do you take that shot?
The chest, and then he exploded. So they shot some type of weapon that made him explode, and of course, some people in the back also got shot and they exploded as well.
That's what I thought. I thought they did explode, but when we get to it, it doesn't look like they did. I mean, how big was this plane then? And how many people were in this helicopter? Because, yeah, I saw that with explode, but then I saw some other commotion, and I just thought there were just more shots that were being hit, because then they start spinning out of control. I don't know if Okafor was the pilot, because then they don't ever show the pilot. They just show Rick and Okafor, and then that's it.
Oh, no.
I don't see.
I thought Rick was the pilot. He was the one that was flying the plane, because
when did he learn how to fly?
Yeah, no, we saw him in the episode earlier. He was flying the plane as well. So yeah, I guess he did learn how to fly. With all that time that passed, yeah, he learned new skills.
Oh, right. See, well, I just thought he was a passenger on this trip. I didn't know he knew how to fly, and he knew navigation and knew where to go. But whatever, that's it. Hey, but he starts talking on the comms. He starts giving communication where he's at. They're going down, and sure enough, they go down. It was a really cool scene. That's one thing I did like about this episode. It didn't feel cheap. It definitely didn't feel cheap. Yeah, maybe I told you like that Liberty Mutual, the picture of the backdrop of the city, but everything else, the locations, the sets, the running in the woods, we did see some walkers. It all felt legit for what they were going for. Especially at this point, we see the helicopter go down. There's some more explosions. Now this is why I was confused, because Rick is running, and there's two other soldiers with him, and he's giving them commands and stuff. So I'm like, oh, those guys didn't explode in the back unless there was a back, two more rows. But they have everyone has helmets on, so we can't see, but we definitely know one of them was not Thorne. She's never brought up in this, which is why I think she was en route to the other location. And some more bombs go off behind. It sends all three of them flying. He's on the floor. Rick is crawling. And then we see like just footsteps in the back, and then, all that stuff. All right. So someone is picking off the other two and just making sure they're dead. And he's like, I'm Rick Grimes. I go out with a fight. And he starts trying to fight back, and it's not working out. But this is where I get surprised with all this. And I was like, well, it's TV. This is the sign of TV. There was a better way to do this, but this is what the TV want. They want the shock. They wanted that. Instead of killing the other ones, like killing this Rick like they did with the other ones, the person decides to take the helmet and the mask thing off to see the face. Why? Why do you care? You don't care. It would have been better is if he gets whacked in the head so hard that his helmet goes flying off.
Yeah.
And then he's face down. And when he's face down, the person kicks him in the gut, like to roll over so they can get a good stab in his heart like a vampire, and then see his face. then that would have made more sense than someone taking the time now to pick you up, take this off, let me get a good look at you. Why? You didn't care about the other two jabronis. Why do you care about this one? It's TV. That's why. They want the shock moment.
Well, I do agree. I understand there will probably be some people watching this. They will think, well, if I was in this situation, I want to know who is the one that was basically trying to attack me. I mean, we need to see what happens in the next episode. Obviously, there's a reason why Michonne and the group she's working with was targeting these people that were flying around with the CRM.
They know. It's a CRM.
Yeah.
They got that big symbol across the helicopter there and on their gear. They know who they're attacking. That's why I don't understand why this. Well, as we know, as Michonne wanted to see the face of the final kill.
That's a good point. I don't know either. I guess just want to know who my killer is or who tried to kill me. But that's a very good question. I don't know if Carlos was about to say something about that because like he was.
You got answers, Carlos.
No, I do think that the way they did it, with at least the part where she was taking off the mask, was good, because I feel like the whole purpose she's there is because she's looking for Rick, so he's trying to make sure not to kill him. But there is inconsistency because she did shoot a dude from a freaking helicopter.
That's what I'm saying. You want to kill them all. You're looking for him, but when you see people in the CRM uniform, you're not assuming that he's a soldier.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's like, oh, let me see if they converted you. Did they brainwash you? Hold on, let me see. Try to check each person. She didn't. I mean, and some may argue, well, we didn't see checking the other ones, but they were quick kills. We heard it in the background. They were quick. And like you just said, Carlos, they shot down the helicopter. I'm sure their intent was for everyone to die in the crash, but that wasn't the outcome. There were some survivors.
I guess unless if she wasn't the one to shoot the plane, maybe it was someone else and she was just there to take out the rest or whatever. That also could be possible, but who knows?
I mean, it's a lot of perfect timing.
I mean, good thing we're going to get a backstory of the whole Michonne thing in the next episode to see what happened.
Yes. We need that backstory, but this is what I will say for those that did watch this episode. I guess the moral of the story is if something is meant to be, it will be, because this entire episode, Rick was trying to get home. He threatened to kill himself. He didn't think he was going to get home. And yet when he just, followed instructions or whatever, all of a sudden things came together and now he got reunited with Michonne. So in other words, don't worry, just see how everything plays out. If it's meant to happen, it will happen.
And you have a friend named Garcia. Listen to him because he probably has some good ideas. Because if he would have talked to Garcia earlier on within those 6 years, he could have been poof in the CRM, not in the city, because it takes 6 years to get there. But the military, that's a different story. If they recruit you, you can join up. And he could have joined up a long time ago and gone through this whole process a long time ago.
And probably still had his hand.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. So then she takes it off, and then poof, we get the moment. We've already know what Michonne looks like because we've seen it I don't know how many times in the teasers, even before this. Remember when they were showing scenes and images of the set and stuff, and we're seeing her with the football mask and all that stuff. So once they pan over, once I remember the hood was taken off, I knew the person he was going to be looking at was going to be Michonne. And the first thing that popped in my head is like, oh, how convenient. How convenient. This is where you get shot down and the person that finds you is your wife. Oh, it's TV. I get it. But still, it's like, it would have been a little more of a surprise if it was maybe not Michonne and we see that she's back at the base or somewhere, part of a group doing some other stuff, or maybe someone else he knew, throw a curveball, throw in somebody that else who's been missing, who didn't come back. I mean, I don't know who offhand, but it just would have been, I know who. No, I think he died though. I think about it. No, forget it. So many people died over the time. I was thinking of random people. But anyway, it was very convenient, but it was cool to see. There we go. They're both in frame. on the show together again. It's been years. She's taken aback. She's like, oh, I can't believe it. She almost, I think it would have been crazy. It would have been even better if she did stab him. Like she didn't take it off the hood. And then, he's coughing up blood or something. You see it through the mask. It's coming. It's getting all gory. And then she's like, you want your final breath? And she pulls the mask off so you can get it. And then she sees she just stabbed her husband.
Well, that right there would have definitely been a lot more interesting to have already wounded him. It would have made people fear as though he actually was going to die. So, yeah, I agree. That would have been a lot more interesting to do that. But as you said, this is TV.
It's TV, and that's it. They didn't want that. They wanted to end off on a high note. I know a lot of people, myself included, were not expecting this reunion so early, especially the first episode. I thought they would drag this out a little bit more, maybe a little cat and mouse type of situation where he was in one location and then we find out she was just there, or she was there but in another room, another area. Like he's, I'm fighting this rebel group or whatever, helping out or doing whatever, and find out she's part of the group, but she's not in that fight. But then again, they're wearing, the CRM are all wearing the helmets, so it's not like you would see the person's face. It doesn't, I don't think they had name badges that said their last names, like, Grimes or something like that. I mean, there's so many different ways they could have gone down this road. But, Scott Gimple, he knows best. He knows best. But this is what he wants to do. So there we go. That was it right at the end. It's the scene of just Rick there. Like, oh man, is this a dream? And how crazy would that be if this was a dream? If this was another dream, giving up.
Well, we know it's not a dream.
Well, we know because of the trailer.
There's no 5 pizza boxes.
Oh, the pizza box. But no, this is a dream of a reverse dream. This is a dream that he has for his commanders that he gives into him, and this is what happens. It's not about Michonne now. It's Okafor. It's the dream that I gave into him, and this is what I get. I get shot down by my wife, and she was about to kill me, and now we're reunited, and we're gonna jump on that horse and head back to Alexandria, because he doesn't know about the Commonwealth.
Imagine Rick is pissed at Michonne for killing his friend. He's like, you killed Okafor.
Right? You killed my friend. I hate you. Give me your hand. What? No, I don't. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this show goes, because I'm sure, like I said, a lot of people probably thought this show is going to be that. It's going to be them trying to get together, and we would probably jump back and forth, right? Seeing where they're at, what's going on, waiting for the connection. But that's not what happened. They're here. They're together. Boom. Episode 1. And I think there's 6 episodes, right? I think this is their new format now. It's just we're going with 6. Based off of some of the responses you see in Rich, it looks like people are over the moon for this. This has been fantastic. They are thrilled.
Well, I don't think that everyone has AMC Plus, so they haven't seen it quite yet. We will see what the general response is tonight when the debuts, and then we'll know whether or not people. Obviously, AMC is going to say yes, this is an amazing show. It's a high viewership, all this other stuff. But
I get that.
All
right. So we'll start off with giving our thoughts of the episode and what we think of the franchise. Carlos, what did you think overall of the ones that live, and what do you think is going to happen to this series?
Well, you said what I think about the franchise as The Walking Dead. I mean,
for this spin-off show.
The first episode was good. I actually kind of enjoyed it. There are some inconsistencies in the timeline, the way they presented the timeline, which could make things a little bit confusing. But overall, I felt like this was a strong opener. It feels, it looks like the next episode is just going to be the same thing, except from Michonne's point of view. So I don't think we'll get that much progression in the story. Maybe we'll have something towards the end of next week's episode. But yeah, I feel like this is is going to be like a one season thing. Not because it won't do well or anything like that. I just feel like it took so much to get to this point. You know, for Rick and
Yeah.
Michonne to be back into the series, to have their own show, to release the show after the pandemic, writers strike, actor strike. This thing went through everything, and I just feel like unless the ratings for this is ridiculous, I don't think this might. I don't think they would want to do a season 2. We'll see, but I don't know. Hopefully this story is a standalone one that at least season 1. If they want to do season 2, that's great, but make sure that the premise of whatever the conflict is for this show is just standalone to season 1.
Rich, is this a one season show?
So I think that this show was going to follow the exact same format as Daryl.
Yeah.
Which is it's actually going to be 12 episodes, but they're only telling you it's one season. So I do expect it to get renewed for a second season. I think they probably already filmed all 12 episodes, but they're just going to take their time to release the second half. I do not think it needs to have a third season, though. To go to Carlos's point, I feel like you can tell the story in this one season and be done with it. And then whatever happens with Rick and Michonne afterwards, they can appear on other shows or something to that effect. But I don't think this should go past the 2-season mark. That's just my opinion. And as for my thoughts on the episode, I also thought the episode was pretty good. I mean, it had some issues, obviously, and I figured they were going to run into some problems when they explained all that time passing. But I will say I am very curious to see where this goes, because like you said, Adam, I thought this show was going to be the whole time. It was going to be Rick trying to find Michonne. But now that they found each other in the first episode, it makes it more interesting to see if they're actually going to be able to take down the CRM. So I am kind of curious to see where they go with that.
Well, that's going to be my next question to you guys. Is that the goal? Because I would think the goal is to get home to the kids they haven't seen in 6-7 years. Get back home to the kids. You can't have, clearly from the teaser we saw, she's part of some larger force. She's got back up somewhere. That's great, but I would think the priority right now is to get home to the kids. Get to see them. As somebody who has kids, that's what I would think of. I was like, let me see them. Let them make sure they're okay. Just like I was worried about my wife if she was okay. And then let's regroup and figure out what we can do. And what do you mean Daryl is gone? Wait, what?
Well, here's the thing. I agree 1,000%. That's what the goal is supposed to be. Now that Michonne, however, is wrapped up in this situation, the CRM is going to be following up to see what happened. What's the crisis? So it's kind of a situation now where they have to get out of this. He has to get her away from this situation. Obviously, they know who Rick is. I'm pretty sure there are other people that know about Rick's past. Jadis obviously knows about who Rick is as a person. So they have to deal with these characters. Otherwise, they're going to be just tormenting them throughout the rest of the season. So I think they have to deal with this issue, find a way to deal with it. Now, Rick can't fake his death this time. I guess he could, but we'll have to see what happens. But they're going to have to deal with that before they're able to actually get their peace and freedom away from all of this. That's what I think.
All right, here's the biggest question. Question of the night. Everybody in chat, go ahead. Sound off. Do we see Morgan?
Well, I was about to mention that.
Does Morgan pop up in this show? Because remember, he is in that area now. And he's on the walkie-talkies. And I know that they don't have the walkie-talkie, but they seem to always pick up on everything. Do they find a way to put Morgan into this show? I say yes. I think we'll see a few. I think we may even if we don't see him, we will hear Ezekiel's voice again. I could see some of those characters coming up in some way, mainly because I definitely think we are going to see a reunion with Judith and RJ Jr. with the parents. It's got to happen. If it happens, then it,
That 1,000% needs to happen. And I think that'll be the moment that everyone, this is why, for me personally, when Rick and Michonne had their reunion, I didn't feel anything with the reunion in this episode. All right, obviously, Rick had already decided prior to this he was done looking for Michonne. He's just going to live life, and then he all of a sudden has this reunion. And of course, yes, Michonne was very emotional, but I didn't get anything out of Rick, just like a bit of a shock or to some extent. So I feel like, yes, them reuniting with the kids, that's a moment that they definitely want to have. But the question I have for you two, as well as the viewers, do you think they're going to have a big thing when he has his reunion with Daryl eventually? Morgan, I do expect that to happen as well, but Daryl kind of like that's like his brother from another mother. So
Rich, you convinced me. There's going to be more than one season. They got to tie in. They did the mothership. The mothership ended, and they're like, we got to bring them all back. We got to do the Avengers.
Getting back together. There we go.
Avengers.
Now they got to reunite. Yeah, because they're all fighting different bats. Daryl is going to be the long shot because he's over fighting another group in France. So that's going to be a trip whenever that happens, and it would be a one-way trip. I think it's Daryl coming back to the States. I don't think we're going to see Rick and Michonne all of a sudden end up in France. So it's whenever, and then now that we know that Carol is going to France.
Yes,
to do
Carol's going there.
So it's gonna be way off when that happens. You know what? When that happens, that's when the movie happens. That's when the Walking Dead movie happens. That's when they open up. AMC says, "All right, how much did we save up? Let's let all the special effects. Let's just go all out. This is the big one." Because like you said, Carlos, the Avengers are reuniting. We get all the original, the OG members all together that are still alive. Maybe at this point, years have passed, and we have the Judith that everybody wants to see, like the Sarah Connor, because that's what they always said. We're going to see she's going to grow up and become Sarah Connor because she grew up in this life. She's a badass and stuff. That's when we see her. RJ, who knows what, just let's just grab. I don't know. For RJ, for me, I know some people will get this comparison, but especially Rich, I see that RJ could be Apollo Crews. I could see that as RJ growing up. Not like someone badass, or if not Apollo Crews, what you call it from New Day, Xavier Woods. If they want to go with that, I don't know why. Just someone who's been hardened, but like Apollo Crews, because he's stocky, he's not a big dude, so the height there, but he's solid. I think that would be a good one, and he's still within that age. He's I want to say early 30s. That's a big time jump. I get it, but I'm just trying to say that if they go all out, at some point they can't have these just little kids, because that'll always be the concern, watching out for little kids. You have to have these kids become soldiers. If Carl was still alive, he could have grown up with the show. Now he's in his, with late 20s or whatever. Would have been perfect. Fine. It was a big mistake for killing him off. I hate that they did it. So
I would not rule out seeing a flashback with Carl. That's a possibility, right? Some type of, or maybe like, Rick has all these dreams. Maybe he has a dreams that Carl is talking to him one last time. I don't know.
They won't do it. Then they would have to pay the actor and do all that. I think they cut that. We saw, remember, even in the last one toward the end, they did really fast cuts.
Yeah.
They didn't really go into the whole discussion, because he had some sad moments right toward the end that they could have really, great dialogue, the lines when he was telling the story about, hey, I'm dying. I know this is going to happen. Just leave me here. Blah, blah, blah. Sad. But we'll have to wait and see. But you know what? I agree with both of you guys. Good episode. I agree also with Rich. I think they're going to do, because they also did that with Dead City, where 6 episodes and like, ta-da, we're coming back for a second season, another 6 episodes. Technically, that would have all been one season. You guys were doing it that way. It was one season. What's going on here? But we see what they're doing here. They're splitting things up. For whatever reason, this is how they do things. We've seen that happen for a while. But hey, at least it's not as bad as a UK show where I remember Sherlock, they'll give you like 3 episodes. I'm like, hey, that's a wrap for the season. It's like 3 episodes. what's going on? Granted, they were 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, but it still sucks because you're accustomed to watching a certain amount of a show, and then when it's that short, we just experienced that with True Detective. 6 episodes. It was like, all right, that was good. I guess maybe it's fine, but maybe a lot of characters weren't fleshed out. Could have been fleshed out if you had more episodes. I don't know. That's a whole discussion for another debate there. If more is better than less, I don't know. But anyway, this is what we have. And we are glad that we are back, people. So thanks again for listening and watching, whether on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Check us out over at the Koalition. We get all kinds of stuff there. Game reviews, TV reviews, movie reviews, interviews, all kinds of stuff. So that will be it. And we will be back because I'm pretty sure this is every week, right? They're not going to skip any days. I thought I could see from the calendar here. So we will be weekly. Back. Yep, there we go. Mm-hmm. Cool. And we'll be back next week, everybody. So thanks again for tuning in and subbing and following. And peace out.
Peace.